Sonic Genesis. What can we say about it that hasn't already been said, folks? You know, for months since this was announced, a lot of people have been hyping up, and even, of course, as somebody pointed out, or some people will point out, Archie Comics has been hyping up. Genesis is supposed to be a sort of what's known as a soft reboot. Now, I know we all ask ourselves the questions that have been longtime readers and subscribers and fans of the franchise. You know, ever since the first day that blue little hedgehog came running across our video game screens, and especially more so since '93, which is nearly 20 years ago itself, 18 years ago actually, when he was joined side by side, not just by that two-tailed fox the year before, but when he was joined side by side by the likes of a half-cybernetic rabbit, an inventive walrus. At first it seems a cowardly coyote or fox, and possibly one that is known as one of the true icons of the franchise, at least from longtime fans' perspective, a princess. But we don't talk any princess, folks. We talk about a squirrel, half chipmunk princess by the name of Sally. Now, a couple months ago, at least around late last year, Ian Flynn said he was going to shake things up. That after 225 in Genesis, that things were going to be a little different. And then recently, Ian Flynn said in an interview with Newsarama that after Genesis, we go back to where we left off in 230. Now, at first that might make some sense to some people, but when we take a look at the ending of 225 and what's going on, that tells us that in some way 225 is a lead-in into Genesis, right? But then you ask yourself, what does he mean by the fact that we're going to get back to the way things were after it's all said and done? Well, folks, a lot of people, if not some people, have been pointing this out since 225 was released, and even before then. You see, a lot of people have been assuming that it's going to be something similar to what they had seen in other comics. That's going to be similar to what they've seen in Marvel comics with such events as House of M, in places like DC comics like 0 Hour and Countdown, and a few other comics here and there. Now, Ian's reasoning for this soft reboot, or for Genesis acting as a reboot, is to freshen things up, to tie up all the loose ends, all the plot holes that have been left open, to make one single continuity world. An example of that is like this, folks. 230 apparently is going to be the start of that. So let's say after 230, the Freedom Fighters decide to go and, I don't know, help Mighty and Ray find Mighty's sister. And that stays within the continuity. Plot hole resolved. But you know, folks, this just doesn't remind me of Zero Hour, which I have a copy of, or Countdown, which I also have a copy of, or a few my own copies of, I should say, from DC. Nor does it remind me of House of M. It does remind me, though, of something that recently happened back in 2009. Yeah, sorry about that. I hit the mic. But something that happened back in 2009. You know what that is, folks? You know what that was? It was called Turtles Forever. That's right. The finale to the 2003 to 2009 Ninja Turtles cartoon series, as well as sort of a finale for the original 80s series. Now you might say to yourself, well, how is this similar to Turtles Forever? How does this remind you of it? I want you to take a first of all, I want you to take a look at what Robotnik's doing right now, or Eggman is doing right now. Take a look at what he's doing. And then beyond that, I want you to take a look at what Shredder did in Turtles Forever. You see the similarities, folks? You see the similarities? They wiped out worlds, wiped out people from existence. Now, Shredder, he did it because he wanted to destroy all turtles and all reality. Didn't matter if he was going to destroy everybody else, as long as he got what he wanted. Eggman could be looked at as in a similar way. Eggman is so determined to beat Sonic the Hedgehog in the comic book that he is willing to reshape the world, wipe everything out as we know it, reshape it in his image so that he could finally be equal side by side with Sonic and find a way to beat him without having to worry about Sonic always foiling his plans as he always has. But folks, I also want you to take a look at the similarities from Turtles Forever and the ending of it. What happened to Shredder, folks? Shredder got destroyed and everything got restored. And how did he get destroyed? Well, ironically, he got destroyed by Bebop and Rocksteady. Okay, fair enough. Now, you might say to yourself, that was Ninja Turtles. Yeah, there's a similarity, but nothing like that's gonna happen here. Well, again, we don't know. We don't know what's gonna happen. But what happened after Shredder got defeated, folks? Everything was restored. True, there might have been a few changes. I mean, for example, the 80s to mid-90s Shredder and Krang, they teleported back along with the 80s to mid-90s versions of the Turtles in that new Technodrome. So there was a change there, right? So who's to say we won't see something similar? Yeah, Eggman will be defeated. We might lose a princess. We may not lose a princess. We might lose a character or may not lose a character. But the thing is, folks, there's a lot of similarities. So if you take a look at the similarities, take a look at Turtles Forever and see what happens there at the end, towards the end of the movie. And then you say to yourself, that kind of looks similar to what's going on here. And then, if you want to, look up, read the issues of DC Comics 0 Hour and Marvel Comics House of M and Countdown from DC. And you might say, there are some similarities there. Folks, it all comes back down to this. The reason this soft reboot or acting reboot is happening is to sort of introduce those that got introduced to the comic through the games, and I guess in Ian's mind, get them to realize that the characters that they may not like and have a disrespect for, they're not as bad as they think. And you know, a lot of people say that Ian has become predictable even with this. But is he predictable? You know, Doc Fox over at some of the Sonic sites said that he or she would be surprised or wouldn't be surprised if Ian wrote in something along the lines of Eggman finding Sally, brainwashing her, and making her part of the Dark Egg Legion. You know, first of all, folks, that's not going to happen. We know that. All that's happening basically is sort of a soft reboot to kind of tie in a lot of these plot holes and loose continuities in the main continuity into one. So that it's straightforward. We don't have to keep asking, when is this going to be solved? When is that going to be solved? It's straightforward, and that's it. And you know, I've said this, I mentioned this briefly, and some people may say that this has nothing to do with what's going to happen in Genesis. And that's true. It is true. I have acknowledged that. But what I want to say is, one person that feels Genesis is being made right now, instead of possibly later on, is Ken Penders. You might remember when I did one of my Sonic Comic News videos, that I mentioned that Ken Penders feels that the reason Genesis is being made right now is so that Archie Comics can avoid any acknowledgement of him. Anything can avoid the backstories. They can ignore the backstories that he's made for some characters, ignore the stories and the continuities that he's made throughout the years. That's what he feels. That's what he feels is going on with this whole Genesis plot. Now, that may be true and that may not be true, folks. Everybody has a difference of opinions, but that's from his perspective. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. All I am is somebody that can't wait to read 225, and all I am is somebody that can't wait to read Sonic Genesis throughout the summer. And again, folks, this is nothing more than what's similar in some ways to what we saw in Turtles Forever, similar to what you see in 0 Hour from DC Comics, similar possibly to House of M and Marvel Comics, and even Countdown from DC. So, the only question now is, will Ian pull the trigger? Will he, Ian Flynn, do what a lot of people saying he doesn't have the guts to do? Because, folks, I said it on the forums today, and I'll say it again here on YouTube. Ian is watching. He's going to all these forums, watching. He may not make his presence known. He may not sign in if he's got a membership, but he's He's going around, folks. He's going around and he's letting himself be known on his board by acknowledging that he's going around visiting. And what he's doing is he's taking down information, folks, and he's taking into consideration. He's taking into consideration, folks. He's taking into consideration what people are in favor of and what they're not in favor of. He's looking at the forums from Sonic Stadium to Saturday Morning Sonic to MobiusForum.net to Satayam Sonic, which is Satayam Sonic, which is Fans United for Satayam. The Sega forums. And you know what? He's even probably taking into consideration the DeviantArt pages that on DeviantArt, because you know he has an account there too. He and Tracy Yardlin and whoever else, Patrick Paz, I mentioned this earlier, they all have an account on DeviantArt. So he's taking that all into consideration as well, taking a look at all the clubs, from Satayam Forever, Sonic and Sally, Son Sal, Princess Sally Acorn clubs, and even the Son Amy clubs and groups. He's looking all at all that, and combined with what he reads at the forums, he's taking that all into consideration. You see, I'm not denying the fact, folks, that Genesis was planned well in advance before Ian Flynn did his thing. I'm not saying that. Nor am I saying that the results that we're going to get during Genesis, and most importantly in October, I'm not saying that those aren't already done, written, and are just being ready to be drawn and published and everything. I'm not saying that, folks. What I'm saying, folks, is Ian Flynn is keeping an ear out. He's keeping an eye out. He wants to see exactly what will be more popular. He wants to see what kind of a reaction he can get from people. And right now, the reaction he's getting is people talking. Just like I'm talking right now. Just like I've been typing and talking, type talking, if you will, typing and type talking, I should say, on the forums. This is what Ian wants. Whether you like the character of a Princess Sally or you don't like the character of Princess Sally, he's got you talking and interested in her. That's his whole goal. That's the goal with any writer in a comic book, believe it or not, even in a movie or a television series, live action or animated. If they are centered on one character put into a situation, it gets you talking whether you like that character or not. I mean, I'll give you a good example. I didn't see the series much. In fact, I didn't see the series that much at all. But the Street Fighter animated series on USA Network. Take a look at that. At the beginning of the at the end of the first episode, Cammy, for the most of the season, and I read this on Wikipedia, but for most of the season, Cammy is on Bison's side. And everybody would keep asking questions, I'm pretty sure of it, if they follow that series. Is Cammy ever going to come back? Is Cammy going to be fine? And I'm pretty sure Cammy had her haters. Cammy had haters. People saying, oh, I hope Cammy stays on that side and hope she gets killed. But what happens? Cammy came back. Folks, that's exactly what's going on with Sally's character. It's basically people have gotten interested in her again, whether they like her or not, and that's what Ian, Archie Comics, and whether you want to believe it or not, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, Sega want. They want people talking. They want people interested. Get what I'm saying? So, that's all I'm going to say about it here, folks. Tell me what you think below, and I'll talk to you later.